So the topic of my paper is Patronage, which is commonly known as the Chachnama. And it is a well-known fact that no work is extant neither for the history of Sindh nor for the history of India as a whole compiled prior to the Muslim rule in the 8th century. So the earliest record, particularly of the history of Arab conquest of Sindh, was compiled outside in India in the 9th century when an anonymous writer compiled the Minhajuddin wal Mulk in Arabic. Most probably between the year 830 to 868. However, some scholars referring certain internal evidences infer that the work would have been written earlier than 573. And this book was subsequently translated into Persian and titled the Patronage, better known as the Chachnama, by Ali bin Hamid bin Ali Abi Bakr al-Kufi in 1216 at the court of Qabacha in Uj. For gaining over favor from Qabacha's court, Kufi dedicated his work to Ainul Mulk Fakhruddin Hussain, the Qabacha's influential minister. So this book is also known as with some other numerous titles. So the purpose of compilation of this book, according to author himself, he says that he translated this book to create a book of exceptional beauty and grace, telling of the wisdom and bravery with which Muhammad bin Qasim in 712 conquered India and Sindh, besieged forts, built mosques, and governed with wisdom. It was a text, Kufi writes, which would provide a key to the slaves of the prophetic world to govern. As Kufi was an esteemed poet and scholar of his times, his compilation represents a very interesting and admirable deal of contemporary trends of Persian writing as well. So the sources of Kufi are given as he did not mention any of his source nor the actual writer of the book. The main objectives of the author in compiling this masterwork, Kufi marked two explicit goals. Number one, linking this local history to the history of the Arabs, and secondly, promoting the concept of a renewal of central principles of Islam. The main themes of the text are, as the whole story of the Arab conquest of Sindh constitutes the first third of the book, characterizes three main themes. Number one, basis of legitimacy of the ruler. Secondly, good counsel of the advisor, and the immorality of treachery. Major components of historiography. I skip this thing. The theme of the text. So by the records of regular communication calling for the receiving regular day-to-day reports from Muhammad bin Qasim and instructions sent by Hajjaj bin Yusuf, Ali Kufi tries to make Chachnama an interesting and valuable source for the contemporary Muslim rulers of India, particularly the successors of the Gharis who were enjoying immense political and military authority in the northern part of India. In this way, the author of Chachnama, likewise the Arthashastra thinkers, represent the ideas of 7 elements incumbent for a state, such as the policy ruler, officials, rural areas, the fortified urban area, the permanent revenue, the standing army, and the foreign ally. In addition, there appears a co-relationship between the ideas of Kufi and that of some ancient Indian philosophers like Mano, in terms of 4 kinds of political measures taken by a ruler for achieving authority, such as conciliation, bribery, dissensions, and force. All these kinds are referred in the Chachnama, while Kufi reproduces a letter of Hajjaj bin Yusuf to Muhammad bin Qasim, recommended the latter some advices for gaining kingship. In other themes, such as the relation with women, the use of conciliation, the varieties of military advice, the varieties of military advice which should be offered to king, there appears an important association between the ancient Indian political traditions and those found in the Chachnama. Consequently, the Chachnama serves as a valuable source of political theory of the era. The approaches of the author seems to be quite critical when he examines the causes of fall and decline of a ruler as well as a dynasty. Besides offering a very good deal of the political ideas, the Chachnama recounts a successful investment of a number of urban strongholds in Sindh, such as Askaland, Multan, Sivistan, Brahmanabad, and Deval, etc. However, the geographical information given in the Chachnama is of great value, but it requires a volume to do justice with this information and to discuss the various theories that have been advanced as to the situation of the numerous places mentioned in this book. On the other hand, the Chachnama depicts the socio-religious conditions of Sindh during the 7th and 8th centuries, particularly about the Buddhism as a dominant religion of the region. It tells us about the religious harmony between the Buddhists and the Brahmins. It also incorporates some evidences that highlight the role and status of women, her position in family life and economic activities. It tells us that the ladies of the elite class practiced seclusion but might talk with the outsiders from behind the veil. When their husbands died, they burned themselves alive on their husbands' pyres. This tradition was commonly in vogue, known as sati. The people were superstitious, strictly followed their religious rituals and rites, and started their work according to the foreboding of astrologers and soothsayers. They were mostly cultivators by profession. The book also includes the authentic and detailed notes on the ethnological composition of Sindh, progress of Buddhism, political relations of Sindh with other neighboring kingdoms such as Kashmir, Takka, Kannauj, Chittor, Jaisalmer, Bhilmal, Gujarat, Cambay, and Kutch. Elphinstone refers it a minute and consistent account of the transactions during the Muhammad bin Qasim's invasion and some of the preceding Hindu reigns, which is full of names and places. It would be of quite interest to note that Ali Kufi could not restrain himself from merely translation of the original Arabic text. Rather, he includes some additional information of marginal nature. He exhibits his additional quality of expressing his eloquence in Persian literary style and investing it with romantic content in a truly Persian tradition for creating interest and delight for his reader. For this purpose, he gives a brief introduction to the different sections with poetic imaginary characteristics of tashbih in Qasida, adorned text by occasionally use of self-composed odes and the verses of the other poets. Improvised titles for Muhammad bin Qasim and other following the contemporary literary trend. It seems very interesting when Kufi uses Persian-Islamic idioms, particularly counting the events of Chach's time. For instance, though Chach was a Hindu, presented as warning Chandra of his accountability to God in an Islamic idiom. The author puts prudent advices and warnings in the mouth of the ministers and courtiers in accordance with his own theory of statecraft, elaborate conversation between different characters, and even at times invests the simple business-like correspondence between Hajjaj and Muhammad bin Qasim in verbalism and rhetoric style. He occasionally allows his imagination to evoke tales with humor and romanticism. The story of the two daughters of Dahir having succeeded in their conspiracy in bringing about the downfall of downfall and death of Muhammad bin Qasim is one of the examples of such exaggerated and hyperbolic contemporary Persian writing style. The aim of the author seems to produce a popular Persian edition of the original Arabic text, in which he was successful. Thus, the Fathnama is regarded as a popular Persian version of the original with its merits and demerits. So based on both internal and extra textual evidences, we can conclude that Chachnama is not merely a translation of a unitary pre-existing Arabic history of the 8th century, and thus we cannot utilize Chachnama as a primary source for the 8th century. Ali Kufi's text exists in a well-known scale of text, interacting with standard histories of Muslim past, of newer forms of cultural imaginations, as well as the non-Muslim world that surrounded it in the 13th century. It is very first localization of Muslim universal history in India, and as such an important text for the purpose of understanding imagination of the 13th century Indo-Persian milieu. It is worth thinking about the conceptual geography that emerges from within the Chachnama and what we can decipher of the 13th century through it. Thank you very much.